Because we are such a small state and have such minimal funding, this is just a strategy that we have had to employ in North Dakota to accomplish our goals and get our work done. In North Dakota, we created a Funding Your Plan workbook. And it's all about sustaining our investments and using a braided funding approach. So we just want to prepare our school districts to be able to continue that great work that they're doing, and in particular, the apprenticeship work. This is actually a screenshot from our Grow Your Own website, and you can see we have multiple initiatives in play. So information is there on the 3 ESSER-funded Pair-to-Teacher pathway programs that kind of started all of this apprenticeship work in North Dakota. So our Registered Teacher Apprenticeship Program, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, but there's information there. And then our newly approved Registered Principal Apprenticeship. What funds do we use in North Dakota for this work, and how specific we use those dollars? That first one there, IDEA, Special Education, as I mentioned, that's how we started all this work, is they used their state level special ed discretionary funds to roll out that first Pair-to-Teacher pathway program. They're currently doing that education pathway where they're funding those dual credit courses for juniors and seniors. And so in the last couple of years, they've spent about $1 million of their state level special ed discretionary funds on all of these initiatives. And then the LEAs also use a significant portion of their funds for the paraprofessionals who are enrolled in these Pair-to-Teacher pathway programs. Many of the paraprofessionals in the field are paid with Title I funds. And so the LEAs are using their Title I funded paras and paying their salary to go through the Registered Apprenticeship Program, because the funds with our registered apprenticeships is to pay for tuition scholarships. So the districts are still responsible for paying for the paraprofessionals in our teacher program and the assistant principals in our principal program. And again, we focus exclusively on using our funds for those tuition scholarships. The third category there are the ESSER funds. We didn't use any ESSER 1 funds, but we did fund that second Pair-to-Teacher pathway program with our ESSER $2, and then subsequently used ESSER 3 funding for that third and final Pair-to-Teacher pathway program. So if you're looking for funds, that would be an excellent source to talk to the district superintendent about. One of the previous speakers talked a little bit about the SAFE funds, which are those apprenticeship dollars that the U.S. Department of Labor gave out. North Dakota applied for both the base and the competitive funding. We were also extremely fortunate to get some state funds to continue with this work. And so in the end, they ended up providing our department with $3 million to keep the Pair-to-Teacher grants going. CTE Perkins, this is one we really want to start expanding on in the very near future. This will probably be our main funding source, is looking to CTE and Perkins to fund those dual credit courses for those junior and high school seniors. So in Title II, the bulk of those funds go out to school districts, 95%, and then you can spend 5% for admin, and those are not the funds we're tapping into. There's also an additional 3% that states can tap into for leadership. And so it's that additional 3% that we are using for our Registered Principal Apprenticeship Program. And then Title IV, we're just again starting to branch into. That, of course, is the well-rounded program under ESSA. And so our schools use this a great part for PD, for teachers on evidence-based practices, evidence-based use of technology. So we have really been encouraging our districts to include those paraprofessionals in this PD. Another one we're looking at is the LEA Title II funds. In our Registered Apprenticeship Program, we built in a very strong mentoring component, and it has 3 levels. So the EPPs are going to have to identify how they will provide each apprenticee with a high quality mentor. And then we are going to have a state-run program where Dr. Lynn Hammonds, that liaison, is going to once a month bring all of the apprentices together in what's called a genius hour so that they can talk amongst themselves about what's going well, what are their challenges, and be able to connect with one another. And then the third prong of that mentoring approach is we're going to highly recommend, not require, but highly recommend that the districts also provide the apprenticee, the para, with a high quality mentor using those Title II dollars, which supports mentoring, to possibly pay a stipend. There's been lots of discussion about the WIOA funds. Our workforce and development agency is the one who receives those dollars. And so we're in the process of setting up a meeting with them to find out possibly how can we braid those funds into our work as well. Another funding source that we are looking at the possibility of using is Title III, because one of our programs in particular has a focus on English learners. So it's looking for paraprofessionals who want to go back to become a teacher and have dual licensure in general ed with an English learner endorsement. Finally, the fourth one that recently came to our attention were those rural education funds. North Dakota is one of the biggest beneficiaries of those dollars, because 99% of our districts meet the definition of rural, all but 6 districts. And so it's a funding source that many districts have access to. So we're looking at the possibility of including those where applicable as well in our braided funding scheme.